Happy day to all. Today we are going to learn the chapter Life Processes. So the topics to be covered in this chapter are introduction, what are life processes, nutrition, where we have modes of nutrition, autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Next topic is nutrition in plants. Next we have nutrition in amoeba, nutrition in human beings. So after the nutrition process is over, we have the respiration in plants and human beings, transportation in plants and human beings, and then we have excretion in plants and human beings. So the screen here shows the introduction, where you have seen two parts, living things and non-living things. So the living things, you have a boy reading, a dog, tree, butterfly, etc. And the other part of the screen, you have the non-living things like book, pen, paper, dress, etc. So how can we differentiate a living thing and a non-living thing? The basic thing that we see for a living thing is the movement of an organism. Can we say movement is the basic characteristic feature of a living organism? Never. No, we should say. So if a human being is sleeping, we may not move our hands, we may not move our legs, but then too there are certain activities that takes place inside our body, crucial activities happening in our body, which helps us to understand or to know that the organism who is lying down, they are alive or not. So the next topic, it is what are life processes? The processes which together perform the maintenance functions which are essential for sustaining life, we call it as life processes. It exists in both unicellular and multicellular organisms. And the processes we have in our mind, they are the movement of an organism, digestion, growth, intake of food, excretion, etc. So the different life processes that we are going to learn here, they are nutrition, respiration, transportation, excretion in this life processes chapter, and the control and coordination. In the next coming chapter, we have reproduction, growth, development, etc. So how are the life processes interrelated? So now we know what are life processes. Life processes are those processes which helps us to maintain or sustain our life. The activities that helps us to sustain life, we call it as life processes. So if we take into account different activities that takes place in our body, that is, the first one is nutrition. So we take a complex food inside with rice, dal or vegetables. So we have vitamins, minerals, fat, carbohydrate, proteins, everything it enters together into our digestive tract. So when it enters our body, the enzymes reacts on that to simplify or to cut the complex food substances into simpler forms and make it available by us, or make our body absorb that. So here we know that when nutrition takes place in our body, up till the different system, different parts take part in the different processes, and once the splitting up of complex food materials takes place and it moves to the small intestine, what will happen? So small intestine, it has got a part called as villi, which helps in the absorption of these simpler forms of complex food materials like carbohydrate or protein into simpler ways. It is being absorbed inside the intestine through the villi by the transportation system. Now we know it is not only the digestive system, it is the next part is taken up by the transportation system, and this transportation system will carry that to different cells for the process of release of energy. During that time, then the third life activity, that is the respiratory system, comes into account. The we call, what is the respiration? As we all know that respiration is the exchange of gases, that is when inhalation and exhalation, we call it as breathing. And then once it comes to the cells, we know that those cells will helps in the absorption of this complex food material by the action of oxygen, oxidation. When oxygen acts on those food material, which helps in the release of energy, and waste toxins are being formed inside the cell. So there we have respiratory system acting on it. Next, when the toxins are produced, we know that it is our transfer work of the transport system to carry that waste material from the cells to our excretory part, that is the kidneys, with excess waste water with the excess toxin present in our body will be carried to the kidneys, and from there it is excreted out as urine. Next, we should know why we are taking in food or why we require nutrition. So nutrition gives us energy. So energy is required for reading, learning, sleeping, to do workouts, if you are doing exercise, and so on. In the screen you can see different activities done by a child. So do you think only animals require nutrition? No. Here you can see a tree. So the tree prepares its own food by means of the process photosynthesis. So photosynthesis, it happens only in green plants, where they require other inorganic material or matter for the process of photosynthesis. The one is sunlight is required, water is required, soil with minerals, water, etc. So actually, what is nutrition? The process of obtaining food and changing it into simple absorbable form, we call it as nutrition. The food that we take in, they are a complex substance or food particles. This being split into simpler forms and then make it available by us, we call it as nutrition. And why do organisms need food? And earlier in the picture itself you have seen we require energy. The food contains nutrients and it provides energy. It helps in cell repair as well as the cell growth and increases resistance against diseases. So the substances that provides nourishment needed for growth and maintenance of life, we call it as nutrition. And next, we need to go to the two modes of nutrition. The first one, they are autotrophic nutrition, and the second one, we have heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition, the auto, it has got two terms. Auto means self preparation. So the plants, or we can say the green plants that helps in the process of producing food by the process of photosynthesis. We call it as autotrophic nutrition. And the autotrophic nutrition, it can be of two types. It is photosynthetic and chemosynthetic. Photo means light. With the help of sunlight, plants with sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, soil, minerals, etc., it prepares its own food by the process of photosynthesis. Whereas the second one, we have the chemosynthetic type of nutrition, where it takes place in some bacteria, or we call them as chemosynthetic bacteria. So the chemicals present inside the bacteria helps to obtain obtain the food for or nutrition for their life activities. We call it as chemosynthetic nutrition. Next, we have the heterotrophic nutrition. It's non-green plants and animals comes under the heterotrophic nutrition. So the first one we are going to see, they are the parts that comes under heterotrophic nutrition, they are saprophytic. So these saprophytic organisms will depend on dead decaying organic matter of plants and animals for their nutrition. Examples, almost all fungi, they depend on the dead decaying organic matter for their nutrition, and we call it as saprophytic nutrition. And the second type, they are parasitic. So they are external parasite as well as internal parasite. Here I am going to talk about only that is the external parasite. We have on the head part we can see the lice, which takes the blood of human beings for as their nutrition. And then the internal parasites, they are plasmodium, tapeworm, hookworm, etc., which are seen in the intestine, which takes that lives in a host internally, and then the nutrition will be taken from the animal body. And the third type of heterotrophic nutrition, we call it as a holozoic nutrition, where human beings comes under holozoic nutrition, and most of the higher animals, where they take in complex food materials. We call such nutrition as a holozoic nutrition. So I want to explain about what are the processes that takes place in holozoic nutrition. That is, we know, once more I want to explain, holozoic nutrition is the intake of complex organic matter as food. We call it as holozoic, that is put together without any segregation, together having a complex organic matter as food. So based on this holozoic type, they are again categorized into three types: herbivores, carnivores and omnivores. Herbivores are those animals, they feed directly on plants. Example, cow, goat, horse, rabbit, etc. And the next one, they are the carnivores. They feed on the flesh or the herbivorous animals. Example, tiger, lion, etc. And the third category comes the omnivores. They feed on both plants as well as animals. Example, crow, pig, rat, even human beings. So heterotrophs depend on autotrophs directly or indirectly. So why we talk about direct and indirect? So because here we know heterotrophs are those which cannot prepare their own food, they depend on others. So a carnivore which are consuming the herbivorous animal, they are indirectly depending on plants for as their food, because they are consuming herbivores and as a result, the part of energy the herbivores receive from the producers or the plants will be received by the carnivores, the same way omnivores also. And the last topic, we have the holozoic nutrition involving different steps. The steps involved in the holozoic nutrition, they are ingestion, that is intake of food in the complex form. The second step, it is the digestion, that is the conversion of a complex food into simpler form by enzymes. The third step, it is the absorption, the passage of the simpler food into blood as well as lymph. And then we have the assimilation part, step which helps in the absorbed food being utilized for energy needed for various activities. And the last part is the egestion, or the last step comes the egestion, that is removal of undigested food materials. Thank you.